Hi, my name is Peter Oberdorfer. I had a company for many years called Giant Killer Robots in the city here. We did visual effects. We worked on about 30 feature films for Hollywood. My partners and I sort of alternated supervising effects for those movies. I worked with Darren Aronofsky and George Miller and the Wachowskis a lot and other people, and we got either lead or contributing company status on a lot of those films, and I helped supervise and conceive of a lot of effects for those films over the years. So that's my background. I originally wanted to be an architect, got really bored with designing bathrooms in the first 6 months of my career, and had the opportunity out of graduate school to design a city for a really shitty movie called Judge Dredd. And but it was designing a city rather than designing bathroom templates for a high-rise. So I went right into that, and that one thing led to another. This was 1993, and I got the opportunity to work with a lot of great artists and a lot of great directors and a lot of not so good directors as well, a lot of B movies, but it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, the industry, as many of you know, is either consolidating around companies called Disney or leaving the area entirely. So while I was still working on a film, I was leading a movie for Robert Redford, and the movies were getting smaller and smaller and the budgets were going away. I had the opportunity to visualize concepts for a project called Project Natal. And my partner at the time, John Gaeta, who I had worked with on the Wachowski movies, the Matrix movies, and I were asked to conceive of experiences for this Project Natal, which later became the Connect. And so in early 2009, we started and came up with a lot of sort of game concepts and immersive concepts and things like that. And they kind of hired us because they wanted people outside of the game industry to think of more cinematic and immersive experiences for this medium. And we weren't game people, but we began to assemble a really great team of interdisciplinary artists around these ideas we had, and started coming up with various types of scenarios, like storybooks that you could navigate, and sandboxes that you could explore and touch and things like that, and just various things. And some of them were very game-like, some of them were not. But Microsoft was great. They kind of put us on a retainer, and we were allowed to just come up with stuff that we thought was crazy and work for a long time with the medium as it grew. And then as Kinect came out, we started a game, which I want to show because no one's ever going to see it. It's not coming out, but Microsoft games had Halo and Star Wars and other games that they were making, and we were a new studio. So as they're wont to do, we were kind of an unknown at the time. And I think what we're coming up with had, some really interesting things, characters. It was an interesting world that we're coming up with, but it wasn't enough of a known entity to survive the consoles and the console wars and everything else that involves. So anyway, the game was called Squishbot, and it was made for the Kinect exclusively, and I think it was a good precursor to what we're getting into now, which is more virtual reality and immersive experiences like that. So I wanted to show you some movies from the gameplay to sort of start out. Let's see. So the idea behind Squishbot was that you were fully inhabiting this world and you could touch what was in it. You could locomotion was easy. We worked out various modes of locomotion: flying, walking, jumping. You kind of went from a direct one-to-one relationship with the character where you were controlling it to, and you could do combat, you could shoot things. Basically, it was all about, natural, intuitive interaction. You could turn yourself into a ball, and then your interaction was kicking and slapping the ball, so it turned into more of a third-person type of control. But it was really fun. And, the whole idea was that you didn't really have to have a set of instructions to use it. And it was a very soft, pliable world that you could just go into and explore and build up power and use it to grow plants and to fly and other things like that. So it was, a lot of fun mechanics in it. And it was kind of a good sandbox for the medium, for the Kinect. It was all about the Kinect. And so this is a 2009 game that we were developing that Microsoft Games canceled after about a year, but you guys are some of the only people to see it and what it could have become. But I don't think it's ever going to come out at this point, and Microsoft Games owns a sizable portion of it, and we're not going to buy it out. So anyway, it lives and dies on the screen here. So we had, flying mechanics, and, it tracked your gaze. So as you looked around, the Kinect would see where you're looking. So we had head tracking, arm motion, everything like that, and full body capture. So I'll just let this play out, and then I'll show. And we started getting into, what could we do with this world at the time? And at the time, Oculus didn't exist, but we started to look at other options at the time, and there was a company called Sensix that had a virtual reality headset. So we did port the game to that. And this shows sort of the gameplay through a headset in 2009 and what we were doing with that. This wasn't obviously for the console release, but we really felt it was important to explore kind of the immersive concept with gesture at the time. And, as the medium was being developed, it was very exciting for us because we hadn't really seen or experienced anything like this. I had worked with a lot of motion capture devices and things like that with feature film on Happy Feet and Fantastic Four and other movies, but I hadn't really done it in real time like this. So it was extremely exciting for us to kind of figure out how these interactions could be designed and what types of intuitive motions would lead a game player to get involved in this kind of world and engage with it. And sound was very important too, I think. We also had a sound game called Flux that we did, where you were an interactive music generator based on the Kinect, and we did various. We did something. We had other paid work that we did, experience work. We did one for General Electric. That was part of Creative Week in Brooklyn. They took over. They created a theater with a sort of Tupac hologram display that you could assemble and move around a GE jet engine in real time. It's about 20 feet wide, and you use your gestures to assemble it. Chantel Benson, who's here at Mixamo, was the producer on the project, actually, so she's great, and we had a great time working together on that. But this was all constructed in Unity, and we did it with a soft kinetic camera, actually, which is similar to a Kinect. But yeah, so sort of explains the process. Anyway, so yeah, but now that the Kinect is being dropped from Xbox, I think there's still a lot of utility in using it for these types of events, and I think that's where it's going to be going in the future. It's not so much about the console, and it's more about experience design and installations and things like this. I think it's still a really relevant medium, especially for VR as a secondary sensor. So, and just, we wanted to show you a little bit more. We're getting into, sorry, this is a little bit of a show and tell, but we just decided to show up today, so. Last week, actually, we've been getting into the Oculus and doing various mad science in it. We know the cameraman from Mythbusters, and he has a really cool octocopter that he built. And we were playing around with a 360 rig that we were making. And we were talking with him, and he's like, let me take it up over San Francisco. So last week, we just attached the thing. His copter was insured, but our rig wasn't. So we just hooked the whole thing up on a fairly windy day. We didn't have a gimbal that worked or anything for it, but we decided to take it up over San Francisco and just see what happens, and then tried to watch it on the on the Oculus. And in about 30 hours from conception to execution, this is what we came up with. And it was super fun. It felt a lot like being back on the movie set again. So we actually, I'll show you a couple other videos. We actually did one flight where I think we ran into Coit Tower and bent the rig, which was really scary. And we could have gotten in a lot of trouble, but don't tell anyone. And then right over there is the Homeland Security building too, and he flew right over that. So, but, I don't know. We were near our van and we could have just driven away. And so there it is, Dave's looking at it on the Oculus. So we're developing a more professional stereo rig now for the Oculus and Morpheus and other VR devices that takes into account a little bit more of the needs of cinematic clients and professional use. But I think through this, it was a good discovery phase project, and we kind of learned what we needed to do from this. And it's sometimes good just to dive in and take all the pieces and kit parts and see what you can make. And so that's what we did there. So we have some other experiences to show interactively. So after the meetup, feel free to go over there and hit up Dave. He's got an Oculus hooked up, and we've got some other experiences to show if you're interested. Thanks a lot.